they say it's not a campaign finance violation. Number two, or it's not even under campaign finance. Number two, if it was, it's not even a violation. Number three, it's a civil matter. You know, President Obama had a really big one from 10 times more money, much more money. And you know what? He paid a fine. I'm the only one that this happens to.
So Robert Ray, former special counsel for Whitewater, was telling me on the program yesterday what you're saying, that if we can, Michael Cohen, he was your attorney. 3 years he was sentenced yesterday, and it may seem like he got a break because it could have been twice as much, but it's still 3 years in federal prison, $500,000 in restitution. This was someone who surreptitiously recorded you.
Terrible.
Is now known as a criminal liar. Yet this was someone who was in your inner circle.
Yeah. Well, it happens. I mean, look, it happens. I hire usually good people, but it just happens.
Why did you hire Michael Cohen? He was known as a fixer.
I'll tell you what, first of all.
That was his title, a fixer.
Very low-level work.
Why did you need him?
He did more public relations than he did law, but he did stuff. You'd see him on television, and he was okay on television. But years ago, many years, like 12, 13 years ago, he did me a favor. He was on a committee, and he was so responsive and so good, and I said, he's a nice guy. I shouldn't
Wait a minute. That was the favor?
Years
because
ago.
People have been asking, well, what is the favor that he did the president? He was on a committee with you.
He was on a committee. It was a condominium committee many years ago. And he was a very big supporter of mine on that committee. I did a great job. Trump World Tower. It's a very tall building right opposite the United Nations. And when you build a building, people always get together at the end and they make a settlement with the owner. They say the ceiling wasn't painted the right color or something, you know, stuff. Sometimes serious stuff, but in my case, it was a great building. And he was on the committee. I thought he was a great guy. I thought he was really a nice guy. He was very supportive. And I liked him. And he was a lawyer. And because of that, I did it. And you know what? In retrospect, I made a mistake. Because what he did was all unrelated to me, except for the 2 campaign finance charges that are not criminal and shouldn't have been on there. They put that on to embarrass me. They put those 2 charges on to embarrass me. They're not criminal charges, number one. Now, that's according, Harris, that's according to the top
And I've interviewed people who've told me this. I mean, you watch the program,
so
you know.
what happened is either Cohen or the prosecutors, in order to embarrass me, said, listen, I'm making this deal for reduced time and everything else. Do me a favor, put these 2 charges on. They're not criminal charges.
I want to move on.
And they weren't for President Obama either.
I have one last question. Michael Cohen says that he lied in order to protect you.
Yeah.
What's your response to that?
Let me tell you, I never directed him to do anything wrong. Whatever he did on his own. He's a lawyer. A lawyer who represents a client is supposed to do the right thing. That's why you pay them a lot of money, et cetera, et cetera. He is a lawyer. He represents a client. I never directed him to do anything incorrect or wrong. And he understands that. Look, he did some bad things unrelated to me, maybe related to his other clients. I wasn't his only client. He had other clients. He did some bad things. And income tax evasion, I heard about taxi cab, I heard about a lot of things. Now, I'm not reading about any of that stuff, because what he did is he made a deal to embarrass me. In order to embarrass me, they cut his term down. Pretty terrible stuff. Let me tell you the other thing. His father-in-law is a very rich guy, I hear. His father-in-law, I thought, was the guy that was the primary focus. Well, what did he do? Did he make a deal to keep his father-in-law out? Did he make a deal to keep his wife, who supposedly, maybe I'm wrong, but you can check it. Did he make a deal to keep his wife out of trouble? Now, how many people, when they say, listen, if you embarrass the President of the United States, we'll give you a deal. Your father-in-law, your wife, we'll cut you jail. That's all it is. It's a terrible system we have. It's going on right now with General Flynn. The FBI said he didn't lie.
I saw your tweet on that about
But Mueller said he did lie. So they took a man who's a general and a respected person and a nice man, and I don't even know what he said about me, because, you know, maybe they scared him enough they don't make up a story. But I have a feeling that maybe he didn't. He's a tougher kind of a guy than Cohen. But they took a general that they said didn't lie, and they convinced him he did lie, and he made some kind of a deal. And now they're recommending no time. You know why? Because they're embarrassed that they got caught.
All right, let's move on. So. You mentioned Ohio, so I'm going to bring up John Kasich, and I'm going to bring up Arizona Senator Jeff Flake, because they say they may run against you in 2020.
I hope so.
But look at the new Fox polling today, which has your approval rating at 46%, which is just a couple ticks off of your highest point in Feb of 17.
But it's higher than Obama. It's higher than Obama.
What is your reaction today to getting that number? It's still below 50, but 46% approval.
Well, I think it's amazing because I only get bad news. I only get bad stories. You look at the paper, it's all nonsense. It's campaign contributions that, if it were even a campaign contribution, is totally legal. You look at stories one after another, they're all legal. The great lawyers that do that stuff are saying there's nothing illegal.
All right, we'll get to that in a second.
But wait a minute. I mean, I get such bad news. So when you tell me I'm at 48, like Rasmussen, I was at 50 in Rasmussen. When you tell me I'm at 50%, I say, how can I possibly be at 50%? When I open up China, like I'm doing right now, nobody reports it. Now, the Wall Street Journal...
But we're talking about it.
Yeah, well, that's because, you know, I'm here and we're talking about it. It helps. But no, it's on the front page now of the Wall Street Journal because nobody's ever seen anything like this. But it won't be a big story on NBC or ABC or CBS, and CNN won't even cover it. You know, that's total fake news.
What do you say to these men who think they have a shot in 2020 and you're sitting at 46 and it really hasn't moved all that much? And let's be honest, there have been some bumpy trails along the way, and weathering that with this type of approval rating. What do you say to a Kasich?
I think I have the greatest base in the history of politics. I have people that I love and that love me, frankly. That includes a lot of women. I got a tremendous percentage of women last time. Remember, I wasn't going to get women. I wasn't going to. I
interviewed some of the women for Trump.
Oh,
yes.
I got women that they're the greatest. And I have tremendous women support. But if you remember the last election, I was worried I wouldn't get one woman in the whole United States to run. And I got tremendous. I mean, Hillary wished she had my numbers, okay? Hillary got trounced with women. And I'll tell you something. The news and the polls are really fake. But I have the greatest base in history. Because the 46 and 48%, those people, they never waver. In fact, it was your poll. And frankly, Fox has always given me a bad poll. I don't know why that is, but because they've treated me fairer than most. But the polls have always been lousy.
But there's positive news in this, though.
No, well, the economy was very positive. I just saw the poll. The economy was very... Look, I've done a good job on the economy, but I've done a very good job in foreign relations. We're respected again as a nation.
My interview with President Trump continues. Keep watching. We talk about the search for the next White House chief of staff. I got to meet General Kelly as we were walking into the meeting today, so I got to see some behind the scenes, along with the showdown over tariffs and where our economy is headed. Plus, the president not happy with the CEO of one American automaker.
To tell me a couple of weeks before Christmas that she's going to close in Ohio and Michigan, not acceptable to me. And she's either going to open fast or somebody else is going to go in, but General Motors is not going to be treated well.
Tariffs moments ago, and also got personal about what the White House job means to him. Watch it. I had the pleasure of meeting your chief of staff this morning, General Kelly, and I know you're getting ready to make a position change there. You've said some glowing things about him this week. What are you looking for in the next chief of staff?
Well, I want somebody that's strong, but I want somebody that thinks like I do. It's my vision. It is my vision after all. At the same time, I'm open to ideas. We've had an incredible run. Nobody's done what I've done and what this administration has done in the first 2 years. And we're not even that close to 2 years. We have a ways to go. And some interesting, I just see this on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, which just came out. China open. It's going to open up its policy, a big policy shift. They're going to open up the whole country, that they want to please President Trump, that they want to do things that they have to do, and that people should have been after China for years, I mean, frankly. And I've established a fantastic relationship with President Xi, who's the head of China, the absolute head of China. And I think we're going to work a fantastic deal for both countries, but a fantastic deal for us. We're going to get China to open up. So let's spend just a moment talking about the economy right now, because this goes along with the reporting that there's been a little bit of movement during this 90-day ceasefire. How are things going with what you have with China and the tariffs and all of that? So we had a tremendous meeting. It lasted for 4 hours. It was in Argentina during the G20. I met with President Xi at the end. And we had a fantastic meeting. It was just a great meeting. What makes it fantastic? I mean, what is that conversation like? But what really makes it fantastic is that we have placed tremendous tariffs on China. that when China sends things into America now, they're paying 25% interest on everything they send in. And we've only gone to a certain tranche, $250 billion. It's 25 on the first 50 billion, and then it's 10 on the rest, but it goes to 25 on January 1st. But I released them of that temporarily until the end of the 90 days to see whether or not we could make a deal. But just one thing. After that, I have an additional $267 billion worth of taxes, essentially, to put on China. And they don't want that. That would be devastating for China. And they have now agreed to go and buy soybeans, tremendous amounts of soybeans. You see that already happening. So
that helps take the pressure off the American economy a little bit?
Well, I don't think there is any pressure. Everyone's doing so well. I mean, there's not a lot of pressure. If you look at unemployment numbers, they're the best in 50 years. If you look at African-American unemployment,
yes,
Hispanic unemployment, Asian unemployment.
Lots of bright spots.
Best numbers ever. Best numbers ever.
So the Dow Jones, though, and the S&P, the markets, it's been said, well, if you take credit for when they're soaring, you have to take credit for fixing them when they're not. So we're at a point where we've lost the gains on the Dow for 2018, but in your presidency, we're up nearly 25%.
Yeah, 32% even.
So do you feel, or what is your strategy, if you will, for bringing it back at this point?
Well, I have a very simple strategy. We were up almost 40%. And we've lost a little of that because of trade. I mean, I'm doing great trade deals.
And you're willing to do that. That's different.
Yeah,
well,
I'd rather do it when we're up 40%, and now let's take a little bit off the table and fix it, because we cannot continue to lose $500 billion a year to China. And I had a fantastic meeting with President Xi. This was a 4-hour meeting where everything was agreed on. Now, if we get it down on paper, that'll be another story, but I think we will. We have great strength. Nobody's ever done what I've done.
So
I went in, Harris, and I said, look, we're going to tax all of your product. And by the way, if you saw the study that just came out, America is paying for 4%, and China is paying for 21%.
Is their economy in trouble?
It's not even affecting us. You look at inflation, it's very low. Hopefully the Fed won't be raising interest rates anymore, because if you compare us to, as an example, President Obama, he had 0 interest rates. Anybody can make money with 0 interest rates. I'm almost at a normalized interest rate. And yet our economy is soaring. Our jobs are soaring. Our businesses are doing tremendously. Apple just announced they're going to be investing billions of dollars in this country. That just happened.
So two quick follows. Is China's economy in trouble? And have you kind of gotten in, the timing is interesting. Like, it's been auspicious. You've kind of gotten in there when China's would capitulate.
No, look, I have great respect for President Xi. He's not a capitulator. But I will tell you this. China's economy, if it's in trouble, it's only in trouble because of me. That's the only reason it's in trouble, because I've placed billions and billions. We've taken in $11 billion worth of taxes that I taxed China. $11 billion. We never made any money with China. We lost money with China. In the last 4 months, we've taken in almost $11 billion of taxes. Nobody's ever heard of that. Nobody knows that. Right. People don't report on that. They only report on nonsense.
I love this, because I hadn't planned to ask this, but you're calling out companies and whatnot, and the nation got to see you as GM said, you know what, we're going to wipe away 15% of the workforce right before Christmas. And you said, I want to talk to Ms.
I called her. I don't like what she did. I think it was nasty. It doesn't really matter, because Ohio is under my leadership. From a national standpoint, Ohio is going to replace those jobs like in 2 minutes. But I don't like that General Motors does that. And they're going down to Mexico to make cars. Now, the New Deal, the USMCA that I made, really makes it very uncomfortable for people to go out of the country. And it will be very uncomfortable for them. I think she's making a big mistake. They've changed the whole model of General Motors. They're going to all electric. All electric's not going to work. I don't run a car company, but all electric is not going to work. It's wonderful to have it as a percentage of your cars. But going into this model that she's doing, I think, is a mistake. But to tell me a couple of weeks before Christmas that she's going to close in Ohio and Michigan, not acceptable to me. And she's either going to open fast or somebody else is going to go in. But General Motors is not going to be treated well.
All right. This is your wheelhouse. Everybody knows this. And we see the energy and the electricity as you talk about these issues. The economy, though, is big. So are there other areas, and I want to move on to other things here, but real quickly, are there other areas that you want to focus on as you go into 2019?
Well, I'm focusing on everything. I mean, I think my strength thus far, even more than the economy, and the economy, by the way, will get incredible when I make the deals with China, with Mexico and Canada when they all kick in. But
why are you so confident about that?
Because I know what I'm doing. I mean, it's business. Nobody ever went to China and said, listen, you're stealing our intellectual property. You're doing all sorts of things that are wrong. You're taking out of our country $500 billion a year, not trillion, not million. You're taking away $500 billion away. You can't do it. You can't take
so when
$500
they threaten
billion
to put more
out of our
tariffs on
country.
us, you're not worried about that?
No, because what happened is the disparity is so great. We do $525 billion with them. They do $100 billion with us. So they do 5 times more. It's really more than that. We charge them very little tax. Let me tell you what just happened. They just lowered the tariff on their car from 40% to 15%. It's not acceptable. 15 is still too high. But it's still a big move.
But better.
But they weren't, you know that yesterday. By the way, you know what we charge them? 2.5%. Now you know what we charge them? 25%.
All right, I wanted to do a few rapid fire, so can I just do one?
Just one.
What do you love about being president?
I love getting things done for the people. It's a nasty job because I get hit so hard, so unfairly by so many. And I mean, really unfairly, when you look at what we've done with taxes, what we've done with regulations, what we've done with China and national defense and so many other things, including the environment. Did you see last year we were the only country that had fewer emissions despite the success of the
Your
country.
critics would say things differently.
Oh,
so,
I know, because
so when you get up in the morning and you say, I get to go do this, what do you love?
Let me tell you, the Paris Accord is not working out too well for Paris. Wow. Take a look at what's happening
France
over
is
there.
struggling on a whole
Because
host
of the Paris Accord, that whole country is burning down, okay? So, and I was the one that kept us out of the Paris Accord. If I was in the Paris Accord, we would be paying trillions of dollars for nothing. And I wouldn't do that. And my people love the job I'm doing.
Yeah. You have such energy for this.
Do I have a choice?
Well, yeah, you do, actually. You do. Not every president would have worked 6 and 7 days out on a campaign
I work
trail.
hard, but
some don't.
You know what?
But you do.
I like to say I work hard, but hopefully I work smart, because I know a lot of people, they work hard. You have to work smart, too. And we're doing great. The country is doing great, and we're respected again.
All right. I'm being told we have to wrap, but I'm hoping to come back at some point.
I would love that.
And you and I traded a lot of papers, and it's been a good conversation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
In the Oval Office a few moments ago.
That's right.
Very fun. I got to see a little bit of things here. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Great honor.
God bless you and your family this Christmas.
Thank you very much.
So the president knows that he'll face some political headwind in 2020 with Democrats. We're going to have one on our power panel standing by with reaction to my interview with President Trump, including what he had to say about Democrats taking control of the House in just a matter of weeks. There have been some rumblings about impeachment, but the president insists he's not worried.
These are the people that ran the FEC, Federal Elections Commission. These are people writing stories that Trump did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong.
With President Trump happening just one day after his former attorney, Michael Cohen, was sentenced to 3 years in prison on charges including tax fraud and campaign finance violations. Cohen was once known as the president's fixer. I asked him about his decision to hire Cohen in the first place and got something I didn't expect. Watch.
Years ago, many years, like 12, 13 years ago, he did me a favor. He was on a committee, and he was so responsive and so good. I thought he was a great guy. I thought he was really a nice guy. He was very supportive. And I liked him. And he was a lawyer. And because of that, I did it. And you know what? In retrospect, I made a mistake. Because what he did was all unrelated to me, except for the 2 campaign finance charges that are not criminal and shouldn't have been on there. They put that on to embarrass me.
With reaction now, I want to bring in my power panel. Ari Fleischer, former White House press secretary for President George W. Bush, has seen a lot of interviews at this level, and a Fox News contributor as well. Adrian Elrod, former director of strategic communications for the Hillary Clinton campaign. Judy Miller, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and author, and a Fox News contributor. So I have to say, I heard some words that I didn't expect to hear today. First of all, that favor letting someone into your inner circle with that much access, Ari Fleischer, based on sitting on a committee paying somebody for some paint. It was pretty extraordinary to hear that.
Well, I think Donald Trump has a history of that. He goes from the gut. He hires people like Keith Schiller, his former security man, who he met in some other capacity. They impressed him. He hired them. In the case of Michael Cohen, it surely did backfire. And to get at the core issue here, Harris, on the Cohen matter, I think President Trump is 110% right. These are not criminal charges. They should not be. They were thrown in there against Michael Cohen to pressure Donald Trump. I've worked on many campaigns, and never would anybody advise a candidate that if you have to pay hush money, which is not criminal, it's unseemly, it's not criminal, you need to pay out of your personal pocket. You cannot use taxpayer contributor funds for it. So he's 100% right about those charges. The one I think he has to worry about is the AMI charge, American Media. He says he didn't pay American Media. The question is,
he doesn't know that he paid them. That's what he said. He doesn't know that there was money to flow.
Did American Media pay any women to go away? That's the question, and was it directed by Donald Trump?
Yeah.
Right. Now, even if it was,
Adrian, I want to get to Adrian Elrod now. Adrian, we heard some words that we've never heard the president say, at least I hadn't, because this is a man who says he has no regrets. He says, with regard to Cohen, I made a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a big surprise. I think to actually hear him declare that is a totally different story. I think he also, something else, Harris, that he mentioned in the interview, and I'm just going to sit here and read the transcript. He said that Michael Cohen was doing very low-level work that was more PR law, and that he was okay on television. That was another incentivizing factor for the president to hire him. When literally this morning on Twitter, he said he was his lawyer, and he was supposed to know what the law was. So I think
he said that in the interview too.
So I think that that's another very important point to to point out here, because was he looking to Michael Cohen to be his PR guy, or was he looking to Michael Cohen to actually be his lead attorney? And I think the Mueller investigation and the various committees and prosecutors that are looking at this situation are looking at Michael Cohen as his lead attorney. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what Robert Mueller takes away from that part of the interview.
Well, I used the word fixer. We never did get to drill down on that. I said it several times. Judy Miller, before I go to you, let's get to the New York Times saying that it's what it said, because that Ari brought that up. AMI owns the National Enquirer, by the way. Let's watch. The New York Times is saying that a tabloid publisher's deal to hush money is now endangering Trump even more. I'm paraphrasing a little bit. As you look at this, what do you want the nation to know about your former
let me just tell you about that tabloid.
Yesterday?
I don't think, and I have to go check, I don't think they even paid any money to that tabloid, okay? I don't think we made a payment to that tabloid.
So, Judy Miller, what is awkward about that, obviously, is, well, wouldn't you know if you paid a tabloid? But what Ari said is it might not matter if they paid on your behalf.
Well, I think it does matter if someone paid on his behalf, or if he directed that a payment be made. And the president was both denying that a payment may have been made and also saying if it was made, he didn't know it was illegal. I think the danger of the AMI payment charge is that it reinforces what Cohen, his low-level fixer lawyer, has supposedly been telling anyone who will listen, that he was doing these dirty deeds for Donald Trump. If it were just Michael Cohen, the president would be able to say, no, he's a liar. But now you have the AMI charge of also payments meant to influence the outcome of an election, which supports that pattern of illegal behavior. And I'm sorry, Ari, I disagree with you. I'm not a lawyer, but I think the charges together do they do represent illegal activity if they are proven to be true.
All right, I want to go to what
on the Cohen charges. On the Cohen charges, is overzealous prosecution, and that's wrong. On the AMI issue, if Donald Trump directed it, it is probably problematic. But let me also say, the idea of media corporations not playing a role in campaigns is a joke. Does anybody remember when 60 Minutes suppressed information about Barack Obama, contradicting what he said in one of the presidential debates about Benghazi being caused by terrorism? 60 Minutes sat on that, did not make that information public, that he was contradicted in their interview. They suppressed the news until the day before the 2012 election. Media companies do play roles in elections, and everybody knows it.
But Barack Obama did not pay 60 Minutes and CBS not to run that story.
If Donald Trump directed it, it's different. Payment can make it different. But the idea that a media corporation doesn't do this, Donald Trump is right that people are targeting him and going after him for things they would not target others, like he pointed out with the Congressional Slush Fund. Why can Congress do this and they get to pay it out of taxpayer dollars, not have to declare it on their FBC reports, but they're going to charge the president for this? That's a false double standard.
All right, I want to ask my team, do we have time to hear the president on Michael Flynn? If so, roll it.
They took a man who's a general and a respected person and a nice man, and I don't even know what he said about me, because, you know, maybe they scared him enough they don't make up a story. But I have a feeling that maybe he didn't. He's a tougher kind of a guy than Cohn. But they took a general that they said didn't lie, and they convinced him he did lie, and he made some kind of a deal.
Judy Miller, I come back to you.
Look, I have a different memory of Michael Flynn, of General Flynn. I remember him leading lock her up charges, lock her up chants. That is the General Flynn that I remember. And also, once again, the president suggesting that Flynn may have been lying. Maybe he was pressured into making a statement that was incriminatory. I mean, this is undermining the judicial system. It's actually undermining the people who used to work for him, who are now going to be tried or convicted in the case of Flynn of very serious charges. I find, Harris, your questions really prompted Donald Trump to kind of emote and to explode with rage and anger and offer a lot of competing explanations, none of which is really very persuasive in my view.
You know, Judy, you have been in those moments where you're sitting across from someone who has tremendous energy about issues, and sometimes listening, you can hear, like, I had never heard him say the words, "I made a mistake," and this is exactly why I hired somebody who could hurt me so badly and record me surreptitiously. I mean, it was fascinating to me. Okay, Power Panel stays. Thank you all. Don't go away. We've heard what President Trump thinks about some potential Democrat challengers in 2020. I asked the president about the possibility of from some in his own political party taking aim for the Oval Office. Power Panel, again, will stay put. Hope you will, too. We'll be right back. And I'm going to bring up Arizona Senator Jeff Flake, because they say they may run against you in 2020.
I hope so. I think I have the greatest base in the history of politics. I have people that I love and that love me, frankly. That includes a lot of women. I got a tremendous percentage of women last time. Remember, I wasn't going to get women. I wasn't going to. I
interviewed some of the women for Trump.
Oh, yes. I got women that they're the greatest. And I have tremendous women support.
That was more from my interview with President Trump, where he dismisses a potential 2020 challenge from candidates within his own political party and says he has tremendous support from his base and from women voters. Power Panel slides back in now. Ari Fleischer, Adrian Elrod, Judy Miller. Adrian, does he have support from women?
He has declining support from women, Harris. That's what he has. And we saw those results reflected in the 2018 midterms, where suburban women, which are the ultimate swing vote, actually supported Democrats who are running in the midterms. That's why we had historic gains in the House. That's why Democrats picked up 40 seats. The other problem that Trump has is he does have a solid grasp on his base. There's no question about that. But he's not growing his base, and that's going to be the problem for him going to 2020. I will say that I think it's going to be hard for somebody like Jeff Flake or John Kasich to challenge him, because he does have such a solid grip on the Republican base. But he's not growing his base, and with independents and women who tend to be swing voters, that's where he's going to have a real problem.
The bearer of bad Republican news here. The president's wrong on this one. He says he trounced Hillary among women. That was his quote to you. He lost women by 13 points in 2016 to Hillary. He won white women by 9 points. He lost black women by 90, and he lost Hispanic women by 44. Republicans have got to, including the president, do better with women, African Americans, and Hispanics. If they don't, in an America where the white population is becoming a smaller share of the electorate, Republicans are going to have an inordinately difficult time winning the presidency, even Donald Trump. So the president is wrong on those numbers, and Republicans have to just face the facts on these issues and be more inclusive. If I were the president in that interview when I said black unemployment is the lowest in 50 years in history, I've expanded on that. What does that mean? How important is that to African American families, to people who struggle? The president needs to go beyond it, connect, emote, and drive it.
Interesting. And your perspective is so rich to get right now, because you would have been one of those people in the room, like I had a team of press people in the room with me, giving the president that side and that encouragement. It was interesting to see the behind the scenes and how it all works. Judy, you know, when the president, and you just heard Ari say, and also Adrian, he's got a grasp on his base, but he's not growing it.
Yes, I agree in this instance with both Ari and Adrian, because that is the challenge for Republicans and for Donald Trump. He doesn't have to worry about Flake. He doesn't have to worry about Governor Kasich, whom I greatly admire. There's no challenge to him from within his party at the moment. If anything, Republicans have
Wow,
been...
you just threw every Republican under the bus. Holy cow.
But I do think his base is solid, but it's not enough. And the
all right,
next
let me
election
step in
is gonna
one
be about
second.
that.
New Fox poll looks at whether or not the president could be reelected in 2020. 39%, only 39% say yes to that. Why do you think that is, Judy?
Well, because of all of the charges, because of everything that we're hearing, despite really impressive performance on the economy, people are unnerved by these allegations of criminal behavior on a part of a president. They're unnerved by the tweets that come at 2 and 4 and 6 o'clock in the morning. They're unnerved by the constant reality show that is masquerading as the presidency. So I think people are nervous about his stewardship of the country.
I was surprised when I asked him, on the heels of everything that's happened in the last 24 hours with Michael Cohen and the charges and everything, the sentencing, when I said, what do you want the American people to know about that tabloid reporting with AMI, Ari, he didn't bite on that and say, I want them to feel confident.